I'd like to call the meeting of the Standing Policy Committee on Water, Waste and Environment to order on this March the 2nd. Warmer weather, thank goodness. I'm Councillor Ross Eady. I'll be your chairperson today. I'm the City Councillor for Mynarski, and with us we have Councillor Tron Dodson from St. James, and we have Councillor Mees from St. Vital. With us from administration, we have Mr. Shanks, Director of Water and Waste, and we also have Michael Gordachuk with us about solid waste issues and Manager of Solid Waste Division. And we have with us our Senior Clerk, Ms. Carly Dolsky. And, that's the introduction. We're meeting here on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Innu and Dakota people. It is also the homeland in the Red River Métis Nation. And we receive our water from the Shoal Lake 40 in Treaty 3 territory. We have some short minutes, I believe.
Yeah, could I move that the minutes of the meeting held on February 2nd, 2026 be taken as read and confirmed?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That's carried.
I move a motion excusing Councillor Rawlinson's absence. She is at an FCM conference of some sort on city business.
Sounds great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That is carried. So we're in delegations, and I believe Mr. Grant is up as a delegation.
That is correct. Yes, we have Mr. David Grant joining us via Zoom today. Good morning, Mr. Grant. You're now live with the committee. You'll have up to 5 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you very much. The topic 2, diversion. Diversion is good. We've put a lot of effort into various diversion schemes. Even if some of them do not make money, like removing glass jars from the gray bin, each diversion should be objectively evaluated. The idea of letting a person's biases affect city policy can have negative outcomes. The city has an effective blue bin diversion program for households. For commercial and construction waste, Winnipeg has a lot to learn or a lot to progress on. I would remind you that tons of corrugated polymer signage is scrapped every year. In some cities, this material is recycled. Winnipeg refuses this refuse. A pun there. A lot of construction waste could be used by someone. Much more could be used for clean fill and road building. I fear that biases of greenish advisors, and this program is going to be developed by a team of advisors, might lead to materials not being diverted without good reasons for not doing so. We have to keep in mind that of these various construction wastes, if it involves asbestos, that'll be determined before it becomes official waste, and that'll be handled separately. The one area that I had mentioned before is the corrugated polymer signage. There's a lot of it brought into the city, and most of it has its life for a year or two, whatever, and then it's scrapped. And I think that shredding it and melting it is a viable alternative, unless someone has a reuse. And so to ask that that's commercial, not necessarily construction waste, but I would suggest that we consider commercial and construction waste materials for diversion. And that was my only point, and I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Have any questions, comments?
No.
No questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Grant, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
And have a great one yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So now we're moving on to report number 1, which is an agreement to see some sewage taken care of, daycare along Henderson Highway.
Correct. Yes, it's a proposed agreement for services for the sewer servicing 1392 Henderson Highway. Yeah, this is a standard process. We do, the building at this location is being changed into a daycare. It's being renovated and the new use of the property requires some upsizing of the sewers nearby. So when this kind of development happens, the developer has to enter an agreement with us so that they can go and do that upsizing, and then it remains the city's sewer. So it's basically an agreement to upgrade the city sewer and the city retains ownership. So standard thing, a couple of these things come through committee a year. This is A2A Homes is the developer here. The sewer on the street, it fronts onto Henderson, it's Henderson address. But the upgrades are actually on the cross streets, about a block and a half away. It's not the sewer on Litz, it's Appleton and Wellams Lane that are being upgraded a bit. So, yeah, it's a pretty straightforward agreement and we'd recommend approval.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, a couple, is this in a combined sewer district or partially separated or
Fully separated.
fully separated? Okay, so it's in a combined district that has been separated?
No, I think this is new enough
Or
that it's,
just
yeah.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, they're,
Right into the river.
yeah, the land drainage goes to the river. It's very close to the river there.
Okay, so there's no issues here with the catch basin stuff or the clause 8 under the license. That stuff. Was, okay.
The game is called, okay, you moving it?
Sure. I'll move the public service recommendations then.
All right, all those in favor?
Alright.
Nobody's opposed, that is carried. Report number 2 is on construction waste diversion.
The request for extension, yes. The construction waste diversion strategy, that was something we've been asked to come back with. And this is a request for extension for up to 90 days. The report we've done with essentially finished, but we're waiting on the province to release their report on this topic. So we want to make sure our report aligns with whatever provincial recommendations impact them.
Legislation, yeah, provincial legislation. Questions, colleagues, about anything? Estimated time, this is an extension for 60 days,
We're asking for 90, I think.
90 days? Okay,
Just to we're trying to be conservative on when we think the province will release its recommendations.
Just one question, is there, are you looking at any particular type of waste?
It takes the province to a pilot study and looks at everything from recycled concrete, asphalt, shingles, drywall, paving to the construction material. So
Okay, everything that's
Yeah.
left over
there
from
was,
this.
there was a lot of input, a lot of feedback that went into the report. I know they have the report. Not sure what they're going to release, but they are gonna they'll come up with some recommendations. So we're just kind of waiting on those.
Okay, that's good.
I have a question. When a house is demolished and the rubble and everything's removed, is that considered construction waste?
It would,
No,
yeah, it would, yeah. Like that's typically that's what it is. It's like building materials. Could be anything from what you're talking about to actually brick and mortar buildings being knocked down. So,
right. Either of you want to move?
Yep, I'll move that we give them an extension of 90 days.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed, but that is carried. Report number 3 is the award of garbage recycle collection to.
And yard waste.
Yes, it's the award of the contract for garbage recycling and yard waste collections, or curbside collection contract. Pardon me. It's a residential curbside collection contract award. The contract is to cover from February 2027 to January 2032, so it's essentially 5 years, starting next year. You may recall, these collection contracts are split into two zones. The city split into two zones, and we don't award both zones to the same contractor. So by design, we want separate contractors for the two zones. Here, we're recommending that we award Area 1, which is pretty much the west side of the city. Award Area 1 to MWM. It's a contractor new to us. It's a Manitoba contractor that was had bid on this. And Manitoba Waste Management. And then Area 2, we're recommending go to GFL. That's the eastern side of the city, or mostly east. The total cost for both these areas each year is shown in the table on page 7. So, and these are estimated costs because you can have to forecast the amount of cart tips, and there's potential price adjustments to inflation throughout the year. So that table shows kind of like the estimated amount of work plus the max possible inflation. So that's kind of like the conservative table there. So the first year in 2027 should be about $37 million. For context, the last 2 years forecast, the last time we were before council, were forecasted at 38 million and 42 million. So we're a little bit less, but it's essentially in the same cost. The rest of the years on the table assume that max contract, like I mentioned. The contract itself includes an annual adjustment based on some StatsCan CPI, the Consumer Price Index. The max, it's capped at a -5% to +5%. So that table is showing +5% if that actually happens. I don't. I'd like to talk about any other questions we have about the tender process or operations.
I have a question. I'm looking at table summary area 1 and the table 2 summary area 2. For the area 1, I see 4 proposals received. GFL proponent number 2, MWF, and proponent number 4. I have some serious questions here because I find that GFL and MWM are within 19,000 on area 1. But that's not the only concern I have. I have the other 2 proponents. They're almost exactly $6 million more, and they're only 28,000 apart from those other 2. So why is that the 2 other proponents are that far out and so close?
Each proponent is given the same criteria to put their quotes together with. I have how Miller and Waste Connections submit their bids. I mean, they have people that do that and calculate that. So why they came in where they came at is not something I can answer today. Certainly,
Okay.
Certainly at some point we're gonna probably I'm sure that they'll want to have once the award's gone through. There is an opportunity to have a debrief with the proponents to kind of if they have questions, but right now I can't.
Based on myself looking at it, either the other 2 proponents have some numbers out that are almost exact, or the GFL and MWM have something that they missed. It's one or the other. I was just wondering if you had looked it over to see if there was any obvious discrepancies.
Yeah, well, we went through each bid. Each bid's gone and they're each evaluated. There's a scoring criteria that's pretty in depth. It's a separate team that goes through the evaluation process. And yeah, no, there's nothing out of the ordinary. Everyone they approached it the same way. I'm not, I mean, everyone's operating costs are different, right? So it could be something within their operating costs that is causing that. Sometimes proponents will put a bid in and they'll put it in high just because they need to put the bid in or want to put the bid in, but they don't want to get their where they're coming to. So there's lots of reasoning behind why they do it, or why they come in at where they come up. But for today, I can't answer that question.
I have a question though. Did all the proponents Were they going to be using compressed natural gas?
No, only GFL.
Only GFL?
Yeah,
or-
GFL's got a green fleet policy that they've initiated for their across Canada, and they are they have proposed that they're gonna replace their current fleet here in Winnipeg with CNG trucks. And they were the only ones that actually had that.
And so Manitoba Waste Management, they're using the standard diesel fuel.
Yep, same with the other proponents, all put in the same, they're going with the standard diesel truck package, not necessarily the same manufacturer, but.
More questions, Councillor Mapes?
I have many questions. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so first question is. The last, you'll hear me make a number of references to October 2016, because the last time we actually had one of these big awards was almost 10 years ago, it was October 2016. So, first question is, that was when we introduced the idea of having two zones, and we had a map attached to that report. There's no map attached to this report, so same.
Yeah, no change.
Same two
No
zones,
change.
okay. And the same philosophy that was introduced then seems to govern now. Tim phrased it as, by design, you want separate contractors. So we're not simply taking the lowest bid on both. We did take the lowest bid on one, but went to the lowest bid on one.
GFL was actually the lowest bidder for both areas.
Right.
And MWM was the second lowest bidder for both areas, for both areas as well, but yeah, so we like as Tim mentioned, we gave one area to GFL and we gave the other area to the second.
Yeah, and last time either Miller or GFO was the lowest on both.
GFL was the lowest, Miller was actually higher, and
Yeah.
we still awarded it.
Come back to that. Why, how do we decide who gets which stuff? Like, if GFO is the low, they're gonna get one or the other. Do you say to them, which do you want, or is there a?
Yeah, no, we
doing
didn't,
this the
no,
same
I mean, it's up to us, like, we have the in the RFP that we can designate who gets which area. But GFL's been doing that area for the last 9 years and they're very comfortable with it. The other piece is that too, with recognizing that there's a new incumbent coming in on the other side, to consider moving GFL to the other side becomes a challenge with training. Because you're gonna be collecting on the current area you're servicing, and then the following Monday, you're gonna switch over to the other side. So there's a lot of things that we thought about before doing this. As well, with the new incumbent coming in, we recognize that there will probably be a lot of movement from the current contractor from that area. Where their employees will probably seek employment, hopefully will find employment with MWM as well, so it just makes it a little bit more of a potential for a smoother transition.
Zone, this report includes a comparison with the two extension contracts, which were the 2 years of extended contract, which naturally were expensive because we're running vehicles that have been out there for 7 years and extending their life. So to me, what I don't understand is why, for context, didn't you include the numbers from 2016 or 17, like the year one of the old contract versus year one of the new contract?
There was a, actually,
I mean, I've got them here. Yeah, the question.
there was a reference to where we were before I remember.
I think, the idea behind, showing the last two, like, those are the last two prices we came to council with. So it's kind of context is that what's the difference to the status quo right now? We're expecting it's, well, technically it's less in 2027 than 2026, but the idea that with our new, like, we have a solid waste utility model now, there's a new waste management fee, that sort of thing. The last 3 years, that was kind of the context of the numbers. The previous projected costs, I don't believe are in this report. They would have been in our last, probably 2 months ago.
Okay. So
Anyways,
we can
it's,
provide-
yeah, it was just to give you a comparison to what you were paying previous.
Yeah, I mean, I think for context, that number should have been included, but, so zone one in when we did the 2016 vote was 15 million and it's gone up to 19.7, so roughly 33% increase. Zone two, on the other hand, was 9.8. And it's gone up like 75% to 17.3. So why is zone two shot up so much more?
Growth. So been a lot of growth, heavy growth. It's right, you know, back in when this original contract would have been awarded in 16, I guess it was. When you look at, and I grew up on that side of the city, so I can attest to that, but yeah, like the housing now goes right to the perimeter of the board.
So zone two would include Waverly West and
Part of it, yeah, there's some of the Waverly's in there as well as, so like around Brady back east and then also east with like Island Lakes is growing substantially to the perimeter. Sage Creek. Transcona's busting at the seams too.
the
A lot of growth up in the northwest.
yeah.
One thing you should also point out is that the previous contract, from 2017, you know, 7-year contract, but also, like the CPI, the inflationary index that was applied every year, was based on like 3 indexes instead of the 1. Like we've changed how that works. So in the past, it was a plus or minus 10%. Like in, you know, some years those indexes went up 9%. Some years they went down -6. So between the pluses and minuses, obviously it was maxed out during COVID. It was plus 10% those 2 years. The previous contract, point I'm trying to make is previous contract was capped at a 10% adjustment, either 10% high or 10% low. This new contract is now 5%, and it's shortened down to the 1 consumer price index instead of 3. So it's a tighter band per se on adjustments going forward. So just if we're looking at the past contract, how it's changed versus the one going forward, it's a little bit of a narrow band.
Yeah, I guess my point is, I mean, in 2024, July of 2024, we had a report that was looking at whether to do just do a zone of the city, and it talked about the cost of the private collection going up 2% a year, and of course, that was much less than the projected increase in if the city did it itself with unionized labor, and I'm just troubled by that, because I mean, the number, it's actually a fairly easy number. It's gone from 25 million citywide to 37 million. So it's gone up 50%. Luckily, the numbers line up rather well. It's like 37 and a half. It really is about 50% over 9, let's say 10 years. So it's a 5% increase a year. Now, there's growth in there, that's for sure, but we certainly haven't been going up 5% a year in terms of our collective agreements. So this isn't as egregious as some of the cost estimates we got with Handy Transit, but still I'm troubled by the fact that we're saying, well, it'll go up 2% when we're looking at a private-public comparison, and then suddenly when it comes time to award, it's going up potentially 5% a year, and it has been going up. Like historically, it's averaged a 5% increase a year, right? Like that's been the increase from 25 million and 10 years ago to if you add the 2 zones together now, it's 37 million, 37 and a half. Not 37.
I know the sensitivity analysis we did on the leaf and yard waste report, their last report there, we did 4% and not 2. You know, the cumulative percentage increase, not looking at the extension years, the cumulative percentage increase on all the collection contracts was 24% cumulative increase on that adjustment from 2017 to 2024. And it included a couple of years there that would be above our limits now. I mean, it is, you know, 10 years ago, 10 years of growth, global pandemics, supply chain issues, this sort of thing. I know everyone's spoken to that, but Going forward, we've tried to define this as a tighter band with the 5% cap. And then again, it is projected cost. There's, you know, customer growth from there. There's additional per bin tipped. So, yeah, we've done our best efforts to try to forecast that cost and here we are.
Can you go over the ration? Thank you for that. So the swing, as you said, it was up to 10% or minus 10%. Now it's a five up, 5 down potential swing in terms of whatever index you're using for inflation.
The consumer price index, consumer price index monthly for the city of Winnipeg, and it's Stats Canada reference table 18 and one of this is defined in that.
Okay. The couple of more things. The great issue for which I was vilified back in 2016, and we had any number of people come in delegation, was the request for proposals contained a provision that said, and I'm paraphrasing, although that's always dangerous, I'm paraphrasing saying, the city shall consult with bargaining agent to see if this could be done more cheaply in-house. And again, I'm paraphrasing, and that was grieved subsequently, and it dragged on for years and years and years. Is there still a similar provision in this request for proposals, or is that different? And again, you can't grieve a request for proposals doesn't really breach the collective agreement, but in any event, there was a grievance filed last time.
Not sure about the contract language, but we do have council direction to recost before any contract renewal. Yeah, like so there's whatever the contract says, but certainly the when this comes to, you know, 5 years from now, we have council direction to recost in-house and before we proceed with retendering the next month.
One of the issues that QP raised very publicly was around, it appears that the folks winning the bid for zone 1 are Manitoba owned and based, and what's the deal with GFL, and has there been some change in its head office location, or I mean that was in the media.
They opened up a location in the States, which it's by design of their own, but they're still a Canadian company, registered as a Canadian company, traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, nothing's changed. Their head office is in Ontario. A little bit going on, unfortunately, I would suspect. That's head office for Canadian operations. Yeah. They do have some contracts down in the US, then they just felt they needed a better presence there. So they've opened up a station now.
In 2016, I don't know if Ross, if you have a question, I do have more questions. I've got to find some wording here from back in 2016.
Once you drops in, you have any.
No, I'm good right now. Thanks.
It's a new DEMIS system.
Yes. What's not clear to me, so what is the difference in the price when you compared it to the last 2 contract renewals? What is the actual net difference?
Well, the projected 2025 total costs for curbside collection were 38,096,000. So 38.1 million. Then the projected curbside collection costs for 2026, so for this year, were 42 million. And then what we're projecting the first year of 2027, the new contract is back down to 37 million. As that's an apples to apples projection cost. The actuals will be a little bit different depending on, you know, how many properties are added or,
Yeah, I understand.
that sort of thing.
So they're added, this properties be added east side and west side all the time, right? So, I think Council Mays is gonna ask the question. Are you?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
in, in 2016, there were actually two interesting items on the same agenda. The one was a move to bring bulky waste in-house. There was Councillor Edie's motion, I think. He'll correct me if I'm wrong.
That's some time ago, yeah.
And the other item, when we awarded the two contracts worth 25 million, zone 1 to Miller, zone 2 to GFL. Paragraph 3 was this: that the public service enter into discussions, including potential revisions to the collective agreement with the Canadian Union of Public Employees, to explore whether the city could deliver garbage and recycle collection at a cost comparable to private sector service providers in order to create an innovative option whereby City of Winnipeg collection contracts, brackets such as multifamily garbage and recycling collection and or a potential compost pilot project, and brackets, could be awarded in-house in the future. The city has 5 collection contracts expiring 2017, 28 bulky, and then 2018 to 2023 bin collection. That provision, what came of that provision, if anything? Because we did have the other business, the go do bulky waste in-house,
That's where
and then
that came
it
out.
started going sideways into let's go do multifamily in-house, and then none of it ever happened.
I can speak to that because some of this was pre me, but when I came in 2019, we were in the process. Initially, it was supposed to be bulky waste that they were looking to bring in-house. It was decided at that time, because of the nature of that service, it wasn't conducive to bring it in-house, like it wasn't a good fit, so they looked at that Northeast bin contract. And we had regular meetings, and I came into them in 19, we had regular meetings with QP. They were a part of the group that was put together to come up with the pilot version. But to look at bringing in the Northeast contract, but one of the council directives in the word was that it had to be done within current year's budget. And when we started putting the numbers together and working with QP, and they were in agreement all the way through. We quickly realized that we were going to be exceeding that current year's budget, and it was brought back to council at that time to say, hey, just to flag it, and it was decided at that time to not. And that's where it stopped. There was and that was and there was an alternative agreement between QP and the city with how to settle that agreements again.
Yeah. I'm not sure we ever did do the exercise looking at potential
I've
like
costed,
agreement.
in my time here, Counselor, I've done 3 reports, and I've costed out the in-house collection costs versus the private costs. I think there's 3 times I brought it forward, and so we continually do it. And like we said before, it's for us now. We've got the frameworks in place. It's very simple to plug the numbers in when you're looking at wages, and equipment costs for fleet. We just plug it in, and it's very simple for us to do a quick comparison. And so going down the road in the future, we're going to do that before on new contracts. So
I guess the frustration from my end is we put all this work into coming up with this wording in 2016. Plus, we had Ross in motion about doing something as a pilot project, and here we are a decade later, and none of it ever got done. And there's some grievance settlement that's bound up in a non-disclosure agreement, and we're literally at the exact same place where we're just saying, well, they say it's cheaper, but we've never done it. It's the exact same debate as it was in 2011 when I was 2012 actually, and 2016. So it's just incredibly inefficient, frankly, to have all of these attempts to bring in the bulky and bring in the bins, the multifamily bin. Okay, can you elaborate then why did we want two different collectors in the two different zones? Why not just take the cheapest bid in each zone?
It builds a little bit of redundancy, so if you have one contractor that's falling behind or failing or something happens as it can in this day and age, where a company runs into trouble or financial trouble, and you're not stuck with no collector. We have the ability to have the other collection contract on the other side to assist. So it just builds a little bit of redundancy.
I have a question, just, so this is a 5-year contract. There's a clause there, somewhere in there that would deal when, curbside compost collection starts.
We have wording in there for both that we could add it to this current contract if we decide not to come out with a separate contract for curbside. We also have a assignability clause in here to address the potential on the recycling side to move to full EPR, the 100% EPR.
Can you explain that? Sorry.
That's the new funding model for recycling that is being explored.
right,
Yeah,
yes.
so it allows us that should the city decide to opt out, which would mean that we're gonna walk away from the collections and processing, we won't have a choice. But it'll allow us to transfer the contract to MMSM, and they would have to fulfill the remainder of the contract.
Right. Clause in there that potentially collection of actual garbage carts. Out every 2 weeks or whatever.
It's not in there, but it's certainly something that could be reviewed or with the contractors. But the reality is, I think there needs to be a little bit more thought put into that as to when the right timing for that would be, and that would come with a report later to council with a recommendation on when the right time is to.
Anyway, the concept is it's gonna reduce the garbage carts.
Yeah, it does. It's timing wise. So if you bring in, if I were to speak at a very high level, and this is not just based on what we know today, to roll it. So council approves the organics program. It's set to get underway in 2030. To do both at the same time could be detrimental to your recycling program on the contamination piece, as well as the new program for organics, where people will be throwing the wrong things into both bins because they just don't have those. You're limiting their capacity for garbage collection. So the timing may not be right to do it right off the hop, but it certainly makes sense. And after year one, when recycling or the organics has had a chance to stabilize and begin to grow within the community, to look at doing it towards the end of 31 or 32. So those are just thoughts off the top of my head that we got to be careful about, because there are financial penalties that we would be facing with contamination rates in our recycling and organics. The processor there'd be penalties assessed to the city. So it's just keeping that in mind.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
No, you've already brought it up. Did we ever, I see 4 proponents here, did we ever consider doing it in-house? Was there any push to actually put it together, our own proposal to do it in-house?
We just did a recent review for one of the other contracts, and which there's quite a gap between private and city service with regards to costing. So for this particular one, no, it wasn't done for this time around, because the numbers would be even if I were to compare the numbers that were used the last time compared to the contract pricing which we got this time, which is very competitive, that gap would have grown. It would have been even higher.
I'm just curious, at some point, we'd love to see those kind of numbers so that we could, at least.
That is what we've
Understood
committed,
it.
that's what we've committed to in going forward, so that is we would have that ability to have those to compare it to.
Yes, now I have another question, the contract for the garbage recycling yard waste, is the garbage still gonna be picked up weekly?
Yep, we
Okay, so that
there's no
hasn't
change,
changed.
there's no change to service and no
Okay,
change
so-
to days, no change to,
So still weekly, it's
Yeah.
not alternated?
no, there's just what Councillor Eady's alluding to is there's been some discussions or some thought of moving other jurisdictions when they've rolled out into an organics program, they typically they'll
Yeah.
move into a bi-weekly scenario for garbage. It acts as an incentive for people to start to do more recycling and also their food waste in order to lower their garbage consumption.
Right now, we're not
Production,
consider
right,
it
so-
in the future, perhaps.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
that was something I was curious about. Go ahead.
Just for support on that, in last December, the council motion was to proceed with this curbside collection, garbage, recycling, beef and yard waste. And take a hard look at when organics comes in, the costing of that with, whether that should be in-house or not. So, this report before you today is following that recommendation, saying that we went out to tender, got this, we've got some recommended awards here for the contract, and that future transition, when it comes to pass, basically doubly committed to taking a look at the cost of that, whether or not it's or not.
Can you please remind me when we plan on doing organics?
2030.
2030?
Yep.
Okay, so that would be in the middle of this contract.
No, there'll be 2 years left in this contract.
That's
So, but we have wording in there to either add it into the existing contract, or we can look at putting out a separate contract, which could include looking at the in-house.
so that, all that wording
Looking
in
at,
this
and
contract.
seriously looking at it.
There's 1 year left, because
Right.
January 2032, so 2030 is the.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, so you have 1 year, and then you'd need to put an RFPO for this, you'd be looking at putting an RFPO at least a year prior to the conclusion of this contract.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're going into the extensions, so, and typically you don't want to get into extensions, I think that's one thing that this report highlights, and I've said it before this committee, is that extension contracts are more expensive, there's reasons why they're more expensive, and that's why you're seeing probably when you look at it, why it dropped, it's because you're coming out of that, you're going back into a new contract.
As a matter of fact, I'm looking at the extension right now for year 2, 2026, and it is approximately 20% higher than the first year of the new contract. If we so accept it.
And there's a couple reasons behind that, because it is a shorter contract, so typically you will get a higher bid because it's going from a previous contract was a 7-year contract. This one's only a 5. But the extension pricing, you're gonna get that because your equipment's being dragged way past its lifetime expectancy, so you're accounting for the fact you're gonna have a higher R&M cost, to keep that fleet running. Extensions are there if you need them. We needed them this time around. There was a lot of discussion going on with the in-house and looking at other options and just this particular time we needed it, so we give it that.
And you brought up a good point. Typically we do 7-year. Why 5? What's changed?
It's actually more, the Winnipeg's done 7. Normally it is 5 with a 2-year extension, just looking at the average life of equipment and equipment. But the other reason we went to a 5, a bigger reason was to align with, we know we've got some stuff coming down with recycling, potentially recycling, and with organics.
Okay, so you want to incorporate,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
make them line up. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
A few more questions? Terra must have been 5, wasn't it? Late 2012 till late.
I'm not familiar with that contract.
Right.
I do know that we, and be honest, like, there's a lot of thought that, or changes that were made to the previous contract in 16 to account for some of the challenges that we ran into.
Yep.
That initial contract. So.
I guess the core of it comes down to well, for me, I mean, we're being told here today, no, we're not just taking the lowest bid. There's something that matters more than cost, comma. Of course, we wouldn't bring it in-house. It costs more. And you go, well, but I thought cost wasn't everything. I thought we just said that we're not doing it based solely on cost, and we aren't. I mean, it's not we're taking the highest bidder, but we're certainly not taking the lowest bidder in one of the two zones. So I find this a very, well, it's consistent. It's consistent with it's a consistent inconsistency. It's a consistent argument that's been put forward by staff for years here, but if cost isn't everything, why is cost everything is a fair question. So, I mean, you would agree the threat of a strike persists both in if we bring it in-house and if we leave it. Like, I mean, I've had this lecture from people, oh, well, they have the right to strike if they're part of the city. Yeah, and they have the right to strike. It's not, these aren't like it's not the paramedics here. They have the right to, if they were to unionize GFL tonight, they'd have the right to strike.
The scoring matrix says, I believe there's a, but I mean, 40% of the contract award was based on pricing. So 40% of the points allotted are based on pricing.
Yeah, but then
it also looks at
that makes my argument then, like, then why is that the only thing that matters when we're looking at in-house programs?
there's been fundamentally change too with this social procurement and environmental piece to this too. So there's points awarded for that. So companies that have a more aggressive green strategy get they have the opportunity to score more points. So when you look at, like, if you were look at the breakdown of the points structure, like there was, even though the price gap was so big with the other two components and MWM, when you get down to the actual overall score, it got pretty close between MWM and the next bidder.
On to double back for a second on the fuel, is one of the other currently using the compressed natural gas?
GFL is already using them in Alberta, and any new contracts, and they're slowly, and they're phasing out their fleets across Canada with.
So it's not the 2016 to now contract. And we had done a study, Climate Action Committee, or maybe even before that, I think, about using electric vehicles. And this, and the view at that time was the technology is coming on, but it's not here yet.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is CNG is becoming the more popular, I guess, because the pricing is actually fairly reasonable to purchase them. Electric vehicles still come at a very high price tag. They come with a reduced weight capacity because of the weight. Yeah, so there's still a lot of challenges that the industry's got to kind of try and figure out. I think I remember correctly when I last looked at it, like 2/3 of the price of the vehicle is the battery. So imagine you get a bad battery and you got to replace that. That's quite a substantial impact.
I mean, that's consistent with what we're doing.
Yeah.
I have a very important question, if there's anybody from the public. In the estimates for the waste management fee on people's water bills, is this coming in close to what you were projecting in terms of future waste management fee?
It's coming in under, I think, the 1%. By 1%, roughly 1%, I think is what, if I remember the number correctly.
Just want everybody to remember, because we shifted how it works, right?
Yeah, so solid waste is now being run as a utility model with that recovery. The waste management fee is reviewed every year and adjusted based on the results of the prior year and the forecast of the next year. So we would have, similar to the water and sewer model, we would try to get approval in four-year increments, 4-year blocks, but we do review every year to adjust and modify going forward. So this will be the same way. Yes.
You'll have to adjust depending on what happens with recycle collection. There'll be
Yes, and our capital program on the solid waste side, it's the same approach as with water sewer rates where we try to manage sustainable utility and adjust our forecast as we go.
I have another question, and it follows on, Councillor Mays. He had mentioned the LNG for GFL. MWM, are they doing the same thing? Are they?
Well, they're gonna be going with the traditional diesel. That's just what their preferences at this time. They do look at, I mean, there's been some substantial shifts in just the emissions control on the new diesel, so they will be state of the art new, like what they can, but yeah, they're not right now, they're not looking at.
Okay, I just wanted to see if that was perhaps one of the reasons why the bids are so radically different.
No, again, it's, yeah, you know what, you never know, it's like the Forrest Gump box of chocolates, right? Like you put out the RFP and you're really not sure what you're gonna get in when it comes in, and yeah, there was, I mean, typically, one of the proponents has typically always been on the high side. So that wasn't an expected bid, but certainly the current contractor there was a little bit of a surprise, but.
Mike, that's a good question, Councilor Robson, and like my concern is like, did Miller know something about the west side, given that they delivered that service for almost 10 years, right?
And again, I would, that if you look at even on the contract pricing for the extension, the contract pricing and extension was reasonable. For what they proposed, so from going from what they proposed for the contract extension pricing to what they came back here today, it was a little bit of a surprise for me, so.
And they just live on the west side. Miller delivered a much better service than the previous contractor.
I think you'll probably get that same sentiment from both sides. And you know what, Miller, like we've spoken with Miller and they certainly want to sit down with us and go through just in more detail. So we'll have a bit of a debrief. So I'm hoping to gain some insight as to what that was as well. But I mean, we have to evaluate it on what's put before us, and that's what we've done here. So.
No way of tying in how many acronyms you can get in one sentence. The renewable natural gas that's coming out of IGRS and Brady, could we use that with GFL? Is that a different product than?
No, it's actually, it's fairly similar. It's just put at a high pressurized, it's pressurized. Then we've already started some of those conversations with IGRS. So, cause it is a potential here. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be the worst thing. Well,
that's what I was
instead
hoping.
of putting it back into the.
That's what I was hoping.
It's all about the end
Get some of
customer,
our
having an
money
end
back.
customer to purchase what you're producing, and this creates another avenue, so.
It's a little.
Not a ship anymore.
All right.
They just have
I'm
to
still
plug it
in
in.
2016 on Demas here. Give me a moment. Yeah, put back in the game.
Okay, I think we've asked all the questions we could about this. Oh, by the way, does this go on to EPC and council or?
Yes.
It does, right?
Yeah. Why is that, out of curiosity?
Commits future budgets, because it's a 5-year contract. It's commits future. I believe that's the reason why it should be. Award of a multi-year contract greater than 10 million. It has to be authorized by council.
Versus this, report one's agreement that's just a one-time agreement that's ending here, right? Or is it going on to? Is it going?
That one goes to council as well.
That one's going to council.
Yeah,
as well?
the proposed agreement for wastewater services for Henderson Island, yeah, it's commits the city to a legal agreement.
Oh, okay. Either of you prepared to move it?
I'm not, I've got an amendment actually, or perhaps a supplemental. I don't know, if stuff.
Not able to read emails.
I hand wrote it for the clerk, so she's.
I haven't seen it yet.
So no one's seen it yet. Shouldn't take long. Shall I speak to that?
It's ready.
I mean,
When it's ready, I will have it read out, right? Just to be clear, I know.
Well, is my hand?
well, I'll speak to what my potential,
Yeah.
my motion is, well, Carly is, well, the Madam Clerk here is trying to read my handwriting, perhaps. Pretty straightforward. It's saying, and I'm still, I think Councilor Jobson and I are still debating what to do with the award to GFL. Wouldn't mind your thoughts on that too, Mr. Chair. But an initial amendment. Not sure what the sequence should be here. In any event, I'd like to move that, given that cost is clearly not the only determining factor here. We know that because we're awarding one of these contracts to the second lowest bidder, not the lowest bidder. In fact, that's been the case in 2016 as well. We awarded one of the zones to the second lowest bidder, not the lowest bidder. Okay, so cost is not everything. Creating some redundancy, some diversity in how we award these services does matter. So my motion will be fine. We direct the staff to deliver the compost pickup, should we ever vote to do that, and that's we, and it is not, well, a future council will choose to do that or not and budget for it or not. But I think the more lead time the city has, the better on that. So we would be saying, yeah, deliver that in-house, the compost, starting presumably in 2030. I think we've made a public commitment to that. That could change. Could change this month, could change in 4 years. The rationale being, look, we've talked about this back and forth quite a bit, but if cost isn't the only factor here, you can't have this both ways. You can't say when it comes to comparing private groups, cost isn't everything, but when it comes to comparing private and public, cost is everything. You just can't, we can't make that argument, I don't think. So I got pretty badly beaten up on this back in 2016. I remember that. And as a result, got that clause 3 in there, which said, go talk to QP to try and come up with something, possibly including collective agreement revisions to see if you can do this. And it's been 10 years. It's been literally 9.5 years and nothing came of that. Other than a grievance settlement where some money flowed from the city to QP. So I'm reluctant to try and do that again because 9.5 years down the road, I mean, I think there were trucks bought and then sold, and there were grievances about grievance settlements and stuff. It was crazy. So, and a lot of it predated Gorbachev here, to be fair to him. So, that would be the motion, Madam Clerk, if you're able to decipher my writing.
What's the actual amendment?
I'm hoping, okay, shall I read it out?
Sure, so I just want to be clear though, so it's either you're concurring with the public service recommendation as amended or not concurring and it's forwarding the following up to council. So I just want to be clear, you are still concurring with the public service recommendation, just with this amendment added on as a new recommendation.
I'm not sure myself. I'm not sure if Councilor Dobson's moving anything in regard to zone 1 or zone 2. So
Maybe I'll just first clarify the
maybe
wording
that
so
should
that I
come
know
first then.
that the Winnipeg Public Service be directed to deliver organic compost pickup. Sorry, this, what is this one's here? Sorry.
Services.
Oh, pickup services. Starting in 2020, using an in-house,
2030.
starting in 2030, using an in-house delivery model.
Okay, so can I read that out then? Okay, so the motion would be, whereas cost is not the only factor determining the award of collection contracts, as shown by accepting the second lowest bid for one zone, as the city also did in 2016. Therefore, the public service is directed to deliver compost (brackets organic) pickup services. We could say curbside, but I think that's understood. Pickup services starting in 2030, using an in-house delivery. It might be out of sequence, I don't know.
Are you trying to say that the city shall bring in-house compost collection? Is that what you're trying to put in there?
Sorry, we were talking.
Yeah, I'm just chatting. I still have extreme concerns with the fact that two bids were almost identical. Actually, two groups of bids were almost identical. On area one, the first two were within 19,000, and we're talking basically a $19 million bid, and they're within 19,000. And then the other two, the proponent 2 and 4, which were substantially more expensive, 6 million, and they're only 38,000 apart from each other. So I'm trying to figure, did something happen? Did two of the proponents have different numbers, different considerations?
Oh, it was the same.
Because they're almost exact for both, for the first two and for the last two. When you're talking $19 million and out by 19,000, that's almost exact. And then for the other two, they're 25 million and they're only 38,000 apart. I keep thinking, did we miss a block or a street or a neighborhood that it's that much different?
The other one is.
It's just me, but
It probably is reflected in there.
Just to be fair, like when we do the pre-award meetings with the proponents, we go through it line by line to make sure that they fully understand it, they fully agree with it, and so yeah, there was nothing missed. It's just, again, I don't know how to explain. I mean, every business is different. Every business's costs are different. Like some have stronger procurement opportunities than others. Some have costs that are built in, administrative costs that we're not, that they gotta account for when they're doing it. So I mean, everyone's different. And you know what, I'll get some insight from our debrief with Miller at some point to find out what went into it or what they were thinking when they did it. But as far as did we miss anything? No. Again, because we thoroughly go through it with each of them to make sure they understood every line of the contract, even to the penalties. Like penalties associated with non-collection or miscollection for damage, like all that. It's all gone through, it's all vetted through to make sure that they fully understand what they're committing to. So.
Are we in, I think I may move a layover as we had with the project 2. In camera meeting, memory serves that, and at the end of that, the committee voted 3-1 to endorse what staff had said, but there were, I think we had 2 additional meetings actually.
Where I'm not. What are you talking about?
Back in 2024, there was a design contract for project 2 at North, and there were 2 bidders, fair bit of controversy, and we asked for a more detailed briefing and got that before approving the
Cameron?
proposal. Yes. Has anything changed with our delivery of bulky waste, or do we still do the
Separate
multi-family
Separate contracts.
Okay.
Yeah, like all our bin contracts are separate. The recycling, citywide bin recycling is separate from this. It's a separate contract. This is the only contract where we awarded to 2, like it's split in 2 and awarded to 2 bidders. Every other one is a single contract for there's northeast, southwest, and there's 3 front load and then the full recycle. So
Is that largely GFL and Miller splitting that up, or?
we have Waste Connections and GFL currently doing it. Miller lost the last one. They missed the bid opportunity on the southwest. So.
That problematic back lane service, is that under this contract too? Or?
Yeah, no, they were given the number of addresses that are backlink collection, and we've asked them for their plan. Actually, one of the things we did do with MWM is we actually had the ability to bring them in for an interview because we had some about 6 or 7 pointed questions. One of them was how they were gonna tackle that. And they had a very well thought out, laid out plan and presentation that they brought to us that, they clearly know what they're.
I have something, another question that I've just kind of looked at, for area 1 and area 2, the, second year extension for area 2. Is 17,796,000 and change. But for the year 1 and the new contract, which it's almost exactly the same, 17,351,000. But when you compare that to area 1, it's 24 million versus 19.5 million. It's hugely different. Why is that? Why is area 1 and area 2 substantially different in the contracts?
Size and complexity. So downtown area 1 has downtown, bulk of downtown. It's got more locations. It's a bit bigger of a contract.
But I'm just saying it went down 5 million.
That's because of the extension. You're coming out of an extension, which I said earlier, your extension pricing is always going to be higher than what you would normally be paying.
In area 1 it was, but in area 2 it's not.
This because you're coming out of the extension. So area 2, you're gonna pay more than what you should be paying on a normal contract year. Just because of the year and age of your equipment and companies are gonna accommodate, or they're gonna put some thought into what their potential R&M costs and fleet costs, just to keep their units running are gonna be, and they'll build that into that bid pricing for the extension. Like, to me, when I look at this, I think there's a couple things here that and Councillor Mays is not wrong. You definitely want to have that protectionist from or protection yourselves from being beheld to the contractors. But when you have a healthy competition, a market where there's competitors and people coming in and consistently, this kind of, to me, when I saw the bids come in there, reflects that competition is still fairly healthy. We actually had 2 other proponents that asked a number of questions on the bid because they were looking at putting in a thing and chose not to. So we'll also get back to them and circle back to find out why. But there's still healthy competition, and that's why I think you're getting the pricing the way it came in.
Well, area 1, we're certainly getting a great deal compared to what we're paying right now.
That is fair.
In area 2, we're getting roughly the same deal, roughly. Okay.
Right, so, okay, now I just want to confirm something. Councillor Dobson, are you talking about moving an amendment?
No, I'm not going to do an amendment. I believe Councillor Mays has got
He's got an
composting.
amendment.
Yeah.
I'm gonna settle for this. I got some fairly good answers, so I'm okay with that.
And if you have any others that come up, Phil, you guys know, you just reach out to me. I'll do my best to get you that.
So I just want to understand, you're adding a new recommendation that's basically saying in-house compost collection in 2030?
Yes. And I think it's combined, given that in 2016, we had that paragraph 3 of the certain forward looking at us sit down with the union and negotiate, et cetera, about all.
Right.
So, yeah, so I'm not wild about it, and I certainly got vilified for it in 2016, but I'm prepared to move it forward if we add in the amending motion.
So then it would be that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in with the following amendment. Add the following new recommendation, that the Winnipeg Public Service be directed to deliver organic compost pickup services commencing in 2030 using an in-house delivery model.
Yeah, with the whereas stuff. Or no, this isn't.
The whereas
this isn't-
It's
yeah,
an
that's
amendment, we don't
fair.
have the whereases.
You could explain the rationale.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Good.
You
Yeah,
can,
that's a fair point.
you can come to EPC and express your,
Save my breath.
express your position, which is what happened in 2016.
Yeah.
Certain Counselor Schwartz.
As you said, it's been a long run.
We'll reverse it, okay?
Yeah.
Um,
I did vote for your bookkeeping way back. It is a shame that never can. I don't blame Mike.
Well, I can see it was only,
That might have given us some hard numbers and instead we didn't. And so here we are,
But
literally a decade later.
the
still.
contracts were very low though, compared to these
Yeah,
bigger
that's-
state, collection.
No, it's all gonna be great. We're gonna do the multifamily and was what, yeah, so moved. That would be a new.
Well, you're moving the
Recommendation.
amendment, yeah, you're moving a motion with the amendment,
Yeah.
all right. I'll call the question then, all those in favor?
I,
Nobody's opposed. Thank you.
You.
But you're showing up at EPC.
I tried to avoid that. But just for you, you did vote for it, so I owe you that one. So that is a fair request.
What's gonna happen to you?
I will move, and do we have any other?
No,
Any
there's
other
no-
business? Okay. We'll adjourn with that?
Okay, so
Yours too.
I'll call the question in a sec. I just wanted to thank, Mr. Gordachuk. and
Yes.
Mr. Shanks for the work you're doing on this and, yeah, it's, interesting to try to figure out all these different companies. And, well, it's pretty clear when you bring it in-house. There's no profit motive in there, right? So, all right, all those in favor of adjournment?
I,
Nobody's opposed, that's carried. Thank you.
thank you.